Hey everybody, Mark Master is Always Booking Comedy. We are back. We're doing it. We have no guest. So not sure what to do. Just texted the guest. In the meantime, oh, there we go. Terrific.
Hey.
Right on time. All right, let's start that over. Everybody, this is Always Booking Comedy. We're here with Bailey Pope joining us from Brooklyn, New York. Does that sound right?
Yeah, it
Heck
does.
yeah. Heck yeah. How you doing today, Bailey?
I'm good. How you been
I've been
since
great. I've been
last
great.
month or whatever?
Let's let's go all the way back to the beginning. How did you Oh, look at it. It is Brooklyn. A mason jar with a handle. Oh yeah. That's
Oh,
all Brooklyn all the way.
boy,
Love it.
yeah, I guess that is who we are. Yeah.
Nice. Nice. Um when did you get started in comedy? How did you get started?
Oh, well, I mean, I always listened to stand up growing up and I was always obsessed with it, but I didn't think it was like just something you could do if you couldn't. I thought you kind of like had to be a celebrity that people were like, okay, now you get to do it. Like I
Right.
had no idea. And then when I started my career in like the hair industry and I'm on stage a lot talking about products and stuff like that. Little by little, I just like really fell in love with presenting, but also like using humor in that. And so when I like really started to think about the fact that there's no barrier to entry as far as going to mics and stuff, like um really started to get serious about 4 years ago.
Nice. Were you in Brooklyn at the time or New York?
Yeah, yeah, so I've lived here for, 14 years,
Okay.
and, so it's the only home scene I know, and so sometimes people think that it's, like, an intense place to do comedy, but, like, if it's the only place you started and it's, like, your only, like, home base, then you really don't have any other reference, I guess.
Right. Yeah, it does seem intimidating to me. I'd be scared. Like I go to Mike's every once in a while in New York and I'm scared. It's crazy. So what was like did you pay for your mics when you got started?
Oh, sure. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of them are, a lot of them you pay $5 to do 5 minutes, sometimes it's like $5 and you have to buy an item at the bar,
Right.
um, and, yeah, I mean, there are a lot of free ones as well, but, depending on, like, where you wanna get up, and sometimes the ones that you pay for, you're gonna be, like, around people that, have maybe the connections you're looking for or, whatever, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's interesting. You could make an argument that maybe the mics are a little higher quality when people are paying for them.
I
You
mean,
get
I would love to make that connection, but boy,
it's not true.
sometimes when you see what happens after somebody paid to be there, you're like, "Wow, what are we all doing?"
That's funny. That's hilarious. Anything you would change if you could go back to those early days?
I would just try to become myself faster. Like when I first started, I swore I was gonna be like a Tig Notaro, like deadpan. I was also into like um Mike Birbiglia at the time a lot. And so it's like everything that I did was like sort of cheeky, like long form and but it wasn't good at all. And so the only thing harder than like sitting through storytelling is somebody who shouldn't be doing it. One of my favorite first jokes that I wrote was a solid like 90 seconds, probably 2 minutes, with maybe two actual laughs if I was lucky. Um, and I just thought it was so good and it was so bad.
Oh, geez. All right, we got a question from online. North Carolina. Hi, Mark. Thanks for tuning in. Does that practice ever stop since you've been there forever? Paying, bringer show, etc. Like, are you able to go to Mike's and not pay now? Do you have different
Oh, sure.
opportunities?
I mean, there are a lot of mics that aren't paid, a lot of great mics that aren't paid, but a lot of those are bucket spots for 3 minutes, and you might sit there for an hour and a half to do your 3 minutes, and that can be a different version of paying. Um, Bringers, I did a couple bringers real early on. I mean, I feel like most comics I know, we all lose our actual friends pretty fast because if you get serious about comedy, you do nothing but comedy for a while. And so I don't even have 6 friends to bring, like all my real friends are comedians now, which is probably a bad thing. But it's working at the moment.
Yeah.
The bringers can be valuable in that you get to be in front of an audience that meant, or came for like somebody bigger. But sometimes
Right.
the bringers, like I did bringers where they're like, oh, it's going to be featuring comics from Jimmy Fallon and Saturday Night Live, and that they didn't show up. So I just had to get a bunch of people. I paid some of my friends, like I paid for their tickets to
Right.
come to my shitty shows, and there was no reason for any. It was, yeah. Sometimes it's rough.
Okay. Now, a pretty traditional way for comics to get stage time, especially as they're getting started, is to start their own show. Tell us about. I know you run a show now. Did you? Was there a show you started in the beginning that was the first thing you ran?
No, I've only run one show. I had a
Tell us
bunch of
how it
friends that
started.
all ran shows and stuff, and it just sounded like it would. I just didn't want like to turn it into a responsibility. I didn't want to like have a job. I wanted to just like focus on going to mics every day and like multiple mics and just focus on why I'm still bad at it. And like I felt like if I started a show, even though I knew the idea of like, oh, if you have a show, then people will either trade spots, they might book you because they want to be on your show or whatever. But even that was not attractive to me at first. The reason I started my show, which is it's been going for a little over 2 years now. It's called Fun Gutter. We have a different punk band every month as like a house band. They open the show for 20 minutes of music and then they stay on stage. They play the comics on and off stage. So it keeps the energy really high. It's really exciting. It feels like you're at like just like a dirtbag punk like show in like a back room somewhere. And it's been
What's the
going really
venue?
well.
Has it been the same
It's
venue
called
the whole
Cobra
time?
Club. Yeah. Yeah, we were real specific about the venue that we have because
Can you say it again? Because I talked over you.
sure, a Cobra Club.
Nice.
It's in Brooklyn. It's 1 block. I mean, like literally a 30-second walk from the train. And so like the location is really important, but like the vibe of the bar is perfect because the performance space in the back is totally separate. There's no bar in there. There's no pool table. It's just the show. And but it also like the bar is known for being like one of like Brooklyn's like longest running like favorite like dive bars, but that's like still like um it's got Brooklyn vibes, but it's not like adorable. And that's exactly what we wanted.
Nice.
And so that's been like a really big part of the last two last 2 years.
That's amazing. What was it like booking that first show? Was it easy? You got a million friends who want to do it, or was it hard to convince anybody to do a new show?
It was really good because we knew the band that we had for our very first show is actually my co-producer Sasha Vondi. His brother has a band called Dog Date. So we already knew, okay, we have a band that we already know we can trust them with the structure and like the idea. And then like booking comics, we just knew that part of the reason we wanted to do the show was because we like weirdo comics sometimes. Like sometimes like our favorite comics will be like low energy, and to have a band means that like you're keeping the energy high the whole time. And so it's not you're not really counting on a comic for to leave everybody like real high, like somebody can be exactly whatever they are. And it works really well. And so the first show, I would love to say I could remember the lineup, but I don't. uh but oh, I do know Allie Lawrence is a comic here that I think that she's a perfect like weirdo comic, and I didn't think that she was getting booked enough yet. Now she's busy because it's been a couple years, but she was my first like, okay, I want to have Allie on because she's gonna kill it. But we've had, uh, as time's gone by, we've gotten bigger and bigger headliners. We've had Gary Goldman, Chris Gethard, Eddie Pepitone, Emmy Blotnick, um, Aparna Nancherla, Joe Firestone. Um,
That's crazy. That's
yeah,
amazing. Is that typical for a New York City showcase, or is that you guys are pretty good at what you're doing?
it's not typical. It's a little bit more difficult to get those kind of people to come um, to especially on a Saturday. Our show's on a Saturday, and most of those people are usually doing much more important shows, much more better, better paying shows. But if you get lucky, sometimes like they're going to be at the cellar for the rest of the night, but they can come earlier and do other stuff.
Do they always go at the end, or they just come whenever they can come?
It's typically at the end. Every once in a while, they'll get there and be like, "I have to leave by 8:15." It's like, "All right, great. Well, I guess we'll put fucking a national headliner on, and then our friend from down the block." Uh, but for the most part, we get them to do the end. Uh,
Nice.
and I mean, a couple of times we at one point we had Moses Storm. He um he got hung up in traffic and he just couldn't come, and he basically told us he wasn't going to be able to come. We started the band, which we used to do the band at the end, so the band was already playing, and then Moses just showed up, and we had basically like everybody just thought the show was over, and then we just ran around the bar and around the block and been like, no, he's actually, Moses is here, everybody come back. So he came in and did 30 minutes instead of the 15 that he was supposed to do. But it was the most unhinged night because he like the band was like playing music and he was like improvising a pop punk song. Um, yeah, you never really know, but like you have to be flexible to get those kind of people to come do shows that aren't really necessarily doing anything for them
Right.
uh,
Yeah.
for their
Wow.
career.
That sounds incredible. Talk to me about when I think of music, I think of posters. And you have kind of like a music comedy show. Do you guys do anything special with your posters?
For the first 6 months, well, so my co-producer is actually a graphic designer, but our graphic design, all of our branding is very much like if it was just like a DIY punk show, and so we actually do things a lot different than most shows probably would, because we don't put anybody's faces on the actual show uh, flyer. It's just names, and then on Instagram, then we like post like with the face, like whatever. But we for the first 6 months, we would print them out. We'd go around the neighborhood and we'd tape them up just like a DIY punk show would, where you just like we would drop them off at every bookstore and record store, tattoo shops. And just ask if we could tape it up in the front, or leave them on the front desk or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
That's wild. Do you have trouble drawing an audience, or how
It
does
was
that?
stressful early on, because it's a real expensive show to put on. We pay the headliner, we pay all the comics no matter what. We pay the band, we have to pay the sound guy, we like pay a photographer for every show. It's an expensive show to put on, relative to other indie shows in New York. And so we were really stressed about our draw for a while, but little by little, as you get people's emails, and like you just hold on to your contacts, and then we got better at uh, doing like do NYC or timeout, or like submitting the um, submitting it each month to like you know people with readership already, that kind of thing. But it
Right.
was real stressful for a while. But um, our venue, we learned the hard way that the venue's fire code is 80 people, and we learned that when Chris Gethard came for our anniversary show, our 1 year anniversary show, and we had 130 people. That's too many people, and that we learned that after we got in a lot of
Are
trouble.
are they paying for their tickets, the audience?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So at we started off as $5 ahead of time and $10 at the door. Now we're $10 ahead of time, 15 at the door.
Wow.
Um, Specifically because you want to try to drive people to like commit, and like so by getting the discount, it helps them commit. But then we think of it as they have to pay extra at the door to as a penalty for making us lose sleep over the last weeks.
I hear you. Oh my goodness. Oh man. There should be some kind of like shock collar system.
Oh my
Like
gosh, yeah.
based on how far in advance you bought the ticket, you get a small shock if it's been weeks or months. But if it's been like 48 hours,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was real stressful for a while, but now, I mean, the fewest people we've ever had at one was like 50, I think it was 52.
that's
And
a good
so
number, especially in a room that holds 80.
yeah.
Nice. All right, let's talk about some road stuff. You drive quite a bit. I happen to know that.
Mhm. And
Like
not
you'll
always into snow drifts.
yes, true. Well, like I think you were telling me you will like drive to Virginia. Like to me,
Yeah,
that's
yeah, I drive down
impossibly
to
far
Virginia.
away. But uh,
It's only about 6, 7 hours to the Virginia border from New York City.
okay,
Um, but I'll do usually when I go down south, I'll go as far as like Raleigh, Durham, and then I can turn around and get back in time for. I have a day job that I still have to be home for sometimes,
okay,
and but yeah, so I do a lot of driving down that way, and then I mean, you could be in Portland, Maine, in like 8 hours from here.
wow.
Then
And
I
so,
go.
will you pick up like a single show and drive 8 hours and do it, or
Not typically, like, I'll usually, like, try to find, like, a tent like, I'll just if I can book something at all, then I'll sandwich it like, try to get, like, 1 or 2 on both ends or leading up. Like, I, I'm doing something a month or 2 in Pittsburgh, and it's, like, a decent paying gig, but then I'm tacking on something in Erie and something in Cleveland. Um, and it'll make it all make a lot more sense, money wise and just time wise.
yeah? Huh, that's smart, bundling the shows. All right, we got a question. What venue in Raleigh have you done?
Let's see. I did a last time I was down there. It was a don't tell at a bicycle shop.
Okay.
Um, and then I haven't done Good Guys yet. Is it called Good Guys? Yeah, I think it's called Good Guys. There's a club there. Um, and then a lot of like indie stuff. It's just people that I've met at festivals over the years. Um, Gone down there, gone to like Greenville. Um,
Here we go.
Been meaning to make it out to the beach. Oh, Good Nights. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about festivals a little bit. That's where we met. You did the Vale Comedy
Mhm.
Festival. Total crusher. Amazing. What in your mind, like what makes a good festival? Have you had any funny bad festival experiences? You can name names or not name names. Just talk a little bit about festivals. You seem to do a lot of them.
I do a lot of festivals. I really find a lot of value in festivals, but maybe not in the way that a lot of people do. Because I think a lot of people think that if you get on a festival, then the booker for SNL better be there and is has been scheduled a one-on-one. It's just crazy, like the expectations that some people have for festivals. I think that it's mainly, as much as comics don't like the networking word, like it's networking. It's like it's meeting other people that care as much as you do to go do this like away from home. Most festivals, I lose money going to them. And I don't think that it's a bad thing. I think it's an investment because all the people actually, you know what? This is a good example. Like I met Leah Bonema at your festival this year or last year, and I'm going to LA in a couple months, and she's super helpful. She's been like giving me a bunch of contacts, and um, like my whole LA trip is coming together from people I've met at festivals in the last year. Um, and I think that that's the actual value.
Do you
Um,
ever go to a festival and like on day one look around and are like, this was a mistake,
oh
just
yeah,
based on the networking potential or whatever?
all the time. Yeah, I mean that does happen for sure. But I think it's like
How do you suss that out ahead of time? Any tips?
um a lot of times I've started. I wasn't good at this for a while. I was like really throwing everything at the wall. My day job allows me to burn some money on submissions. Um, but I've started to look at like um you know, what's their website look like? Like if it kind of will help you like know if people actually care enough about their festival, the branding and all that kind of stuff. But then I'll look at people who have done it in the past and then I'll just hit them up. People that I know, and not just like
Yeah.
random like people, but I know enough people now, especially in the festival like sphere, that we all talk. We
Yeah.
all like hit each other up. I've had a bunch of people ask me about Veil um yeah, Mark, and you know, we talked about that on our trip last month.
Yeah.
Um but yeah, I think that sometimes you get to one uh and to me it's more important to be able to spend time with the other comics um versus any other like necessary, you know, perks or whatever. I just like I think it's the most value is just getting to know other comics. Even if you kill at a show at a festival, you know, if 10% of the audience comes and says that you're their new favorite comic, like it's still not really changing your career, you know, like so I think that the to me the value is in just getting to know other people that are doing this thing.
Yeah, and just to expand on that a little bit, one of the things that's important when you look at a festival is like the concentration of events. So, like some festivals are very spread out, and some are kind of concentrated. And generally, for
Totally.
networking, the concentrated ones are better because there could be 30 comics at a festival, but venues that are like 15 miles apart, and you might only run into 8 of the 30 comics over 3 days just because not everybody's, you know what I'm saying?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, like that's what I've told a lot of people about. Like the Vale experience was, you know, we're in Vale. Like where else are we going? We're all staying a 6 minute walk from this place we're standing. You know, like
Yeah.
of course we're all like going to like hang out into the night. Like uh I like that like location, like it just worked really well for that. Um but like Limestone is one that I was like really happy to be a part of, and it is like also the town and all the venues are within probably 5-6 blocks of each other,
Nice.
as well as like the hotels that everybody stays at, and so you're kind of just like it feels like you've taken over a town with a bunch of other dirtbag comics, and it's
Right.
like a lot of fun.
That's cool. All right. Well, it's almost time to land this plane. Any other thoughts on show running? Any tips or tricks people might be interested in?
I mean, I guess I'll as a tip, I'll say, like, what I'm working on right now, and, like, what I've really been trying to focus on lately is, putting myself in my audience position and, like, thinking about, like, every little part of the experience from, hearing about the show, buying tickets, getting to the show, how the show, experience is, as well as leaving the venue. I wanna know every little thing and, like, think about, what things are happening that might make them decide that they're over it,
Mhm.
or that like it's too hard to get a ticket, or it's too I don't like the seating situation or whatever. I'm trying to get better at remembering that just because a lot of people like it doesn't mean that there's still like not a lot of room for improvement.
Yeah, one thing when I think that way a lot, and one way that I think is successful to think in that perspective is imagine a couple where one person wants to go to the comedy show and one person doesn't. And the person who doesn't only needs like one small excuse to get out of it. Remember last time the seating was
Mm-hmm.
cramped? Or remember last time we had to walk through vomit to get to the whatever? Like, because it makes the bar so much it's so much more difficult. It's such a high hurdle to reach to have like nothing to complain about, you know?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
really good one.
And I think about that a lot whenever the reason I think about that or thought about that in the first place is every once in a while we get like politics comes up at our comedy shows, and like everybody needs to speak their truth, but I always worry about a couple getting into a fight after the show because of a joke that was told on stage. And to me, that isn't I'm not doing my job entertaining people if people get upset by the show that was put on, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah, I do it. Yeah.
Um, all right. What's any goals for this year? We're still in the beginning of the year.
I've got a couple festivals that are still like I want to get to be a part of. And I'm trying to basically like the High Plains is one that you don't submit to. You just wait
Yeah.
till Jesus or somebody just calls you. And so those kind of things, I'm like trying to figure out, how you get that to that place. Um, but also just putting on a little bit more like efficient tours myself.
Mm,
I've started to get paid more for headline shows. And now I'm like, oh, I still need my day job, even though this is the most I've ever been paid for a headline show. And so, like, how do I make sure that I'm not just relying on getting paid for something else? Um,
right.
and how do I get it to a place that has some sort of growth?
Do you think there's like a linear path to that? Like, can you say like, oh, 4 years from now, I could economically quit my day job? Not that you would, but there's like a path. Or do you think it's just like you're going along, and all of a sudden, zoom, something happens, and you're able to replace your salary?
I, if I knew, then I would be sharing with everybody. But I think that it's going to take a level of trusting myself that I'm not ready for yet. Basically, like I don't. I know that at some point I'll have to quit my day job, and I will, even if I'm killing it in comedy, I'm still going to start making less for a while.
Yeah.
But it's only going to be when I'm 100% available to do everything that I think that I can finally get back to my comfort level with
Yeah.
just comedy.
That's exciting. Is that something you think might happen in the next 5 years, let's say?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like 5 is a realistic. I don't want it to be that long.
Right, of
I'd
course.
I'd
And
love
that would
it
put
to
you
be
around
sooner.
10 years, right?
That put me around 10 years. And
Yeah. Huh. Fascinating.
um you had Caitlin Palufo at Vale a couple years
Mhm.
ago, and she's one of the big reasons why I started doing festivals. And she also blew up. She started to grow a lot earlier than most, and so
Yeah.
I think a lot about like how hard she works. She'd been on late night, and then I'd still see her at mics sometimes. Like she
Yeah.
still like grinds, grinds.
Right. That's a good place to end. I love Caitlin. She's the best.
Yeah.
How can people find you, Bailey?
At BaileyPopeComedy.com or on Instagram at the actual Bailey Pope.
Awesome. All right, everybody. We'll be back next Monday. Thanks for tuning in.